Finally, the UFC is giving us Max Holloway versus Arnold Allen. I've been waiting for this fight for a long time. The UFC fans have been asking for it, and they're finally giving us what we want. But it's going to be headlining a fight night. And why do I say but? Because I know that the UFC might just put this in the fucking Apex. And that would be a travesty. That would be a slap in the face to both of these men. That being said, if they can stack a Wonderboy and Kevin Holland card, then they can certainly put Max Holloway in front of a crowd, and I really hope that they do this. It will be held on April 15th. Also, Sean Strickland just called out Paulo Costa. That's big because there's a chance that Sean Strickland could be fighting Paulo Costa on the UFC 287 card, which is already pretty stacked as it is. But imagine those guys being in the same room as Pereira and Adesanya in a press conference. So I'm going to talk about both of these things. First off, Max Holloway, Arnold Allen. This is a fight that we want to see. It's a shame that we didn't get to see Arnold Allen go the distance or just get past the third round with Calvin Kattar because, of course, there was a bit of a fluky injury in that fight. But I still was impressed with Arnold Allen nonetheless. I mean, the guy is extremely fast on the feet. He was schooling Calvin Kattar throughout the entirety of that round. And I think that we saw the injury in the start of the second round. It may have been the end of the first round, but it also could have been the start of the second round. Either way, it just sucks that we didn't get to see him go past the third round. That's the question that we all have when it comes to Arnold Allen. Can this guy who's heavily muscled, that packs a lot of power, that's very explosive, how does he do in the later rounds? And we're going to find out. Because unless he's the first guy to ever put Max Holloway away, which I can't bet on, he's going to have to go the distance. Because Max Holloway's never been finished. Now, eventually we're going to see the straw that breaks the camel's back. Eventually we're going to see Max Holloway, if he continues to fight, we're going to see that guy get knocked out. Because he has taken more damage than anyone's ever taken in UFC history. He's also landed more strikes than anyone in UFC history, but you know, there's a give and a take. If you're landing that much, that means you're not finishing guys. That means that you don't have power, and if you don't have power, guys are going to be willing to take a couple shots to land their own. And Arnold Allen is a guy that not only has the skills to land, but has the speed and explosivity. I just want to know, how does he do in the fourth and fifth round with Max Holloway? But also, there's a part of me that doesn't think that Max Holloway is just going to dominate him in the fourth and fifth, because we just saw Yair Rodriguez, who does have pretty decent cardio. We saw him give Max Holloway a really tough fight all the way up until the end. He stole rounds off of Max. And I just have a feeling that Max has hit his ceiling. I think he's kind of peaked. And I don't think he's getting better. In fact, I actually think he's getting worse. And given that he's been hit so much, given that he's going through more and more wars, you got to be declining at some point. He's an old 31. I think he's like 31 years old at 32. He's old for that age, basically, by how long his career has been, how much damage he's taken. And I don't think he's just going to go out there and put on a performance like the one he had over Calvin Kattar. After that fight, you know, he went to war with Yair, then got beat up badly by Volkanovski. I mean, he's been softened up since. And before that performance over Calvin Kattar, he didn't take a lot of damage against Volkanovski in their rematch. He didn't even take much damage against Volkanovski in their first fight. Now, he lost convincingly, basically lost every round. But before that, he fought Frankie Edgar, didn't take that much damage, so he wasn't really getting cracked in the chin all that much. Now, of course, he had the war with Poirier, but that was a long time before that fight with Calvin Kattar. He's coming off of a fight in which he took a lot of damage. And, man, I just know that he's probably not as motivated anymore as he used to be, because I think at this point he knows that Volkanovski is just on another level. Now, Arnold Allen's going to be coming in here as motivated as possible. Can he go a hard 5 rounds with Max Holloway? I don't know. I need to see if he gasses out, because this guy might gas. There are people in the UFC that just have that issue, and we don't know if Allen has it. Allen seems to be a guy that slows down a little bit in the third round. So we will see. We'll find out. Could he be the first guy to finish Max Holloway? If he is, we're going to need this guy to get a title shot. But here's the thing. I just think it's going to feel weird to see, you know, the winner of Yair and Emmett get the title shot over Arnold Allen if he beats Max Holloway. You know what I mean? I don't even think Yair deserves it. I think Emmett's coming off of 2 robbery wins too. I don't think he beat Ige. He definitely didn't beat Kattar. So the division's kind of messed up, but whoever wins this, if Max Holloway wins, he'll probably have to fight someone else, because they're not going to give him a title shot against Volk anytime soon. Unless Yair takes that belt off of Volkanovski, but they'll probably do an immediate rematch knowing the UFC. Now, if Arnold Allen wins, the UFC is definitely going to give him a crack at the belt next. And I'm looking forward to this. To be honest, guys, I'm kind of leaning towards Arnold Allen. And I know that hindsight is 2020. I mean, actually, I know that we have recency bias, and Arnold Allen's been looking good. Max Holloway hasn't been looking so great. He's been scraping by these up-and-coming guys, and again, I think he's peaked. I think he's starting to decline, and I think the gap is closing between him and the rest of the guys. Like, he had a really wide gap between him and the older guys. Calvin Kattar's, a symbol of the old guard to me in the 145-pound weight class, where Arnold Allen, that's the new wave. These guys are well-rounded, and he's extremely talented too. So I'm leaning towards him, but I really don't know who I'm going to pick. But anyway, next up, we have Sean Strickland calling out Paulo Costa. Now, this is a fantastic call out. I love it. I said ever since Sean Strickland beat Nasruddin Imavov, that's the fight to make. I don't think they're going to do Whittaker Strickland. I just don't see the UFC making that. And obviously, they're not doing Costa Whittaker because the UFC didn't give Costa what he wanted. And I think that Costa is more willing to take a risk on less pay against a guy who's not as dangerous in Sean Strickland. That being said, the UFC needs to make this because Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa in the same room as Izzy and Alex Pereira is what the fans want. And if they don't make this happen, they don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they have their heads in the sand. Straight up. Because at UFC 276, Sean Strickland became a legend of press conferences. Now, he's already a legend of press conferences, but I'm talking about on the main stage, pay-per-view. He needs to be on that press conference. That was one of the most entertaining press conferences we've ever seen. And if you think Izzy's mind is going to be boggled fighting Alex Pereira for a fourth time, knowing that he has to respond to a bunch of people asking him how the fuck he thinks he's going to win, imagine what's going to happen if you have Sean Strickland chirping at him, if you have Paulo Costa coming at him too. Paulo Costa hasn't been in the same room as Izzy since their fight. And that in and of itself was a fun buildup. That was, a great buildup. There was a high, amount of intensity and animosity between the two before that fight. Actually, I think it was mostly from Izzy. Costa seemed to me to be a guy that was just kind of doing it to build the fight, to troll a little bit. Izzy seemed to have, a problem with Paulo Costa, and he seemed to be going into that with a chip on his shoulder. But I know that Izzy's going to be, he has a lot on his plate with Alex Pereira. I just need to see this on the press conference, man. So I hope that the UFC makes this happen. We all want Paulo Costa and Sean Strickland to fight. I think that Sean Strickland beats Paulo Costa, by the way. I've been saying Paulo Costa is the most overrated UFC fighter for a while now. The guy couldn't beat Marvin Mediocre Vettori. And do you really think he's going to knock out Sean Strickland when a guy like Jared Cannonier, who has way more power than Paulo Costa, couldn't? I think that Jared Cannonier is not only more powerful, I think he's better and more technical and doesn't have little T-Rex arms. I think Paulo Costa not only has overrated skill, he's got overrated power. I think the guy is just an overrated fighter in general. He has no gas tank. He's not that motivated. He doesn't strike me as someone that takes the sport that seriously, and you're putting him up against a guy like Sean Strickland, who's proven to be one of the guys that's in the upper echelon of that division. It's him, Jared Cannonier, and above them is Whittaker, Pereira, and Adesanya. I think there's a gap between Costa and Strickland, and we've seen Costa, look really shitty against guys that he shouldn't be looking shitty against, like an old Luke Rockhold, who we all thought he was going to go in there and starch him and knock him out. And despite winning, he looked even worse than Rockhold. Fucking guy, Paulo Costa, people still think he would beat Hamzat. I think it's crazy. I think it's wild. I mean, Paulo Costa doesn't have any wins over anyone that's a current UFC fighter. Think about that. Let that sink in. His last finish was over Uriah Hall. Now, Yoel Romero, that win was impressive. Let's not forget about that. But that was a one-off because that was the one time Paulo Costa looked good. And I think that Izzy loss really fucked with his motivation. I don't think he's getting better. So he kind of reminds me of Mike Perry in the sense that, at this point in his career, he has got one foot out the door and he's probably looking to go to Bare Knuckle or PFL or some other organization, maybe Misfits Boxing. I just think that Paulo Costa is giving me Mike Perry vibes. And I think that I could see a lot of people picking him to destroy Sean Strickland. I saw a comment on Instagram saying, Paulo Costa lands and it's over. Paulo Costa touches him and it's over. It's got 48 likes. And thank God some true MMA fans that actually watch the sport commented, well, then you would know that he has no power. It's overrated. he doesn't have no power, but it is very overrated. He's not really dropping guys. As I said, he has these little T-Rex arms. He needs to land like a 10-shot combo to get someone out of there. Good luck landing a 10-shot combo on Sean Strickland, by the way. It's not going to happen. The guy is far too good. He's too experienced with fighting. He's basically fighting in the gym all the time. I mean, this is a guy that lives and breathes sparring, and that definitely helps his game. He's really good. He's effective. It's not the prettiest style, but it works, and he's a lot better than Paulo Costa. He would beat him. I just need to see the build-up. I need to see the trash talk, and for Costa, it's a low-risk fight. You're not going to get finished. It's probably going to go to decision, and it'll be fun while it lasts. And it might be your last UFC fight, to be honest, if this is the last one in his contract. Take a big one. Take a fun one. You know, if I'm Paulo Costa, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, wait a second. If I'm going to leave the UFC, I'm going to go out with a bang. I want my name to be hot. Let's make something happen at the press conference. Let's get some eyes on me. Let's make some headlines. Let's have a weird interaction with Izzy at the press conference. I think that's good for both of them. And is it good for Izzy? Probably not, to have both of those guys chirping at him. But it's what we want to see, and it's what the UFC should do. So let's make that. Let's make it as the feature fight. Then we could have let's do a 6-fight main card. Why not? 6-fight main card. Raul Rosas Jr. and Yanez and Rob Font as well. Then, of course, we have Burns Masvidal. We have Izzy Pereira and Costa Strickland. Let me know what you guys think. Who do you think wins that fight? And also, who do you think wins between Max Holloway and Arnold Allen? Because I'm pretty sure that at this point in Max's career, I don't know if he's going to be running away with these victories over these guys like Arnold Allen or Ilia Topuria. I know he has the gas tank advantage and the experience, but he doesn't have that finishing power. And even if Arnold gasses, I don't really know if Max Holloway is just going to dog him. You know what I mean? I don't think that's going to happen. So let me know what you guys think. Until next time.